Hello, everyone. So thank you for including our paper in the program. I'm Haochen from Peking University. This is a joint work with Justin Yifu Lin and Mingzhi Xu at Peking University and Songrui Liu at Renmin University of China. So the title of the paper, Learn in Order to Practice, actually, this paper we want to focus on the role of local governments in shaping industrial policies and foster economic performance at the industry level. So we studied the effect of political rotation on local comparative advantage in China. So the thing is actually the mobility of government leaders can carry knowledge and diffuse knowledge across regions and using industrial policy tools to boost economic development. So I do not have to say much about the importance of knowledge in modern economic growth, but the knowledge is acquisition and diffusion actually requires direct forms of human interactions. Therefore, existing studies mainly focus on migrations, flow of workers and carry knowledge across regions, across firms, across countries. But other than that, in a more centralized economy like China, so local government leaders may also play a role in knowledge diffusion process that can affect local economic development. Because there are a special group of people who may affect local economic development strategies for the future. At the local level, they are the local government leader. The highest government leaders at the local level in Chinese is the city leaders of the party is called party secretary, and the mayors who are the leader of the government. But their decision-making would be tightly linked with their tacit knowledge. The tacit knowledge can be accumulated from their past work experience. And in this paper, we investigate their industry-specific working experience. And so existing literature on knowledge diffusion paid relatively little attention to this specific channel, and our paper is to fill this gap. Just briefly introduce the institutional setting. So actually, China provides an ideal setting for our study, because at the local level, there are a few people who make decisions about development strategies, about industrial policy, which industry to promote. It's at the city level, so prefecture city level, it's city party secretaries. And we focus on these guys. They are the highest level of city leaders. And the second level is city mayors. We also examine the effect of city mayors. They have large discretion on deciding the development mode of a prefecture. More importantly, there is a regular rotation of local leaders by upper level governments. So the central governments like to, they do not let one stay at one place for a long time. They rotate the government leaders regularly, every 3 or 5 years. And this decision is made by provincial leaders for city-level government leaders rotation. It's made the decision when do you leave and where do you go. It's made by provincial leaders and have to be approved by the central government. It's usually unexpected by the rotated officials for themselves. And in our paper, we say that this rotation may facilitate diffusion of knowledge. Here is industry-specific knowledge and development experience across regions. Actually, there are numerous examples in ancient China, and I will give you some examples. This is Su Shi, who was one of the most politicians and speakmen in Song Dynasty. His lifetime career is characterized with rotations across over 10 prefecture-level cities in China, and this is typical for politicians in ancient China. And when he worked in Huangzhou, this is a prefecture-level city in China, he discovered that the farmers use this kind of interesting farm tools for rice planting. It can enhance the efficiency of planting rice. And when he then transferred to other prefectures, he diffused this knowledge and helped local people to adopt this rice planting knowledge that helped rise the local agricultural productivity. And this technology has spread to most part of the southern China where people plant rice. And a modern example, this is Li Fenghe, who is now the current vice premier of the state council, a very top level government leader. But 20 years ago, he was also a leader at the city level and worked in Quanzhou, then Fuzhou, then Xiamen. three prefectures in Fujian province. When he was rotated from Quanzhou to Fuzhou, in Fuzhou he proposed development idea to support some industry, that textile industrial clusters. These industries actually have a comparative advantage in Quanzhou, in the Quanzhou city. Quanzhou has industrial clusters of labor-intensive industries. And when he was then transferred from Fuzhou to Xiamen, as the government leader in Xiamen, he then promoted the support of industries like including electronic and textile. These industries actually Fuzhou had a comparative advantage. So here you can get the brief idea of what we want to document in this paper. So in this paper we contribute to our understanding of the following questions. So first, how political rotation affects knowledge diffusion, affects local comparative advantage, and if so, what's a mechanism? Okay. So we assemble detailed data, the data on city leader resumes and biographical profiles, and measures of industry-specific export performance as a proxy for industry-specific productivity. And more importantly, to identify mechanisms, we use measures of industrial policy based on textual analysis of annual government work reports, the documents, over 5,000 documents at the prefecture level over 20 years. And in our paper, we outline a very simple conceptual framework to inform our empirical investigation. So in the framework, it's a multi-region, multi-sector framework where local production efficiency is affected by knowledge diffused from other regions, and the transfer of government leaders actually enhances the efficiency of industry-specific knowledge diffusion. So, and following that, we derive our hypothesis based on this framework, and we carried out reduced form tests to study the causal impact of political rotation on industry-specific export performance and investigate mechanism. Okay, and we found that the coming in of a new government leader with working experience on certain industries promote the local industries, the local affected industries' productivity, and raises global competitiveness measured by reviewed comparative advantage. And we discussed two mechanisms. One mechanism is the implementation of industrial policy favoring the affected industries, and the other is social connection, so the social network between government leaders and firms. And so the main finding of our paper is, the title is Learn in Order to Practice. So two respects. One is learn and one is practice. So learn that the coming in of a new city party secretary associated with, we found a significant increase in the RCA, the industries where he has his previous position. So the idea is once a leader transferred from city A to city B, then, and for example, city A has comparative advantage like in textile industry, then after this new appointment, we would find that in city B, there is an increase in the competitiveness in the textile industry following the coming in of this government leader. And the mechanism is that we found that, so this industry-specific productivity increase is associated with the practice of industrial policies in favor of these products. Okay, and we contribute to several strands of literature like worker mobility in productive knowledge diffusion. Actually here, what we mean by knowledge in this paper is more broad, is not restricted to productive knowledge, but knowledge like to management, knowledge of governance, knowledge something in the government leader's mind, like which industry to promote, how to implement industrial policies in favor of certain industries based on my experience. And the impact of political rotation, how to measure industrial policy, and as well as explaining China's exporting success. Okay. So I will go to our empirical analysis. I have introduced the data. So the first political official data set. This data is collected by the team in Peking University led by Professor Yao Yang. And they have city-level leaders information during nearly 20 years. And they collect their biographic and resume information, include detailed working experience. And we focus on city party secretaries, as I just mentioned. And we have export data. We use the China government work report database that incorporate full text of prefecture level government work reports. We do it as comprehensive as possible. to construct our measure of local industrial policies, city by sector by year measure. I will introduce it into detail later based on textual analysis method. And also, our analysis is also supported by other firm level data and city level data. So our final example consists of over 3,000 prefecture level, 300 prefecture level cities and over 1,000 industries. As of HS 4-digit code is very disaggregated. Okay. Okay, then I will introduce the key empirical setting, that is how we measure political rotation in China. So we focus on party secretaries, the top leader in each city, and we define a party secretary transfer variable. This is a transfer from city C prime to city C. It's an indicator variable. This variable takes one if T is during this guy's tenure in city C. So when he leaves this city to other cities, this becomes 0. And it takes one if the party secretary last position is in city C prime, which is different from city C. Yeah, question?
Is the rotation random, or do the people have a say in where they will go? I'm asking because even if the new municipality doesn't have yet a comparative advantage, I, as a politician, might be more inclined to go to an area where I'm more certain that my policy might bear fruit. So I might choose a municipality that is kind of similar in kind of the basic characteristics.
Exactly. So, I mean, yes and no. It's definitely not random. It's selected by like upper level government, province level government, or the central government. But here, actually, our identification assumption relies on that this appointment of local leaders is not correlated with like industry-specific characteristics. So and actually for so as a local government leader themselves, they have no say on where I want to go. It's totally determined by like our upper level governments, and sometimes it's random. For example, I expected I can spend several more years here, but the government realized that the government immediately transferred you to other regions. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. I have no doubt that sometimes it's random. My question concerns whether sometimes it's not random and whether those might be important times. For example, in U.S. universities, when the law school is really screwed up, they bring in a lawyer to be the new provost, or when the B school is really messed up, they bring in someone from a B school to be the new president. I mean, is there a dynamic that might occur there in some of the more important industries and communities?
Exactly. So actually, like the upper level government can take into consideration of the government leaders' industry-specific experience of this. But actually, later I will show you some balance tests, and we conduct multiple tests to see there's no systematic selection at the industry level of this kind of,
It wasn't clear to me from what you said before if the measure of success is in the same sector that the official moved from. In other words, you gave
I will show you the empirical specification soon. It's industry specific, actually.
It's interesting. So in other words, if you're an official and you move from city or province A, where it was textile, to place where it was telecom, it would not be counted in your data? In other words,
from a city to...
Yeah, from a city that's where the success was in textiles, to a city where the official was responsible for focusing on automotive or telecom.
Oh, no. Actually, the government leader is responsible for the whole economy.
So your measure of outcomes is not industry-specific. Is that right?
It's industry-specific. But we focus on actually the top leader. You can consider it as a mayor, the top leader of the city. He's responsible for the whole economic growth and other bunch of things in this region. So he's not only responsible for specific industries. So that's what we want to tell. Actually, so the government leaders can choose some strategies, industry level policy tools to promote certain industries that can be more, more beneficial to local economic growth. Yeah. And okay, let me do some description. So among all our city year observations in our sample, about 10% of city level government leaders are in their first year and transferred from other cities. So not all city leaders are transferred from other cities. It can be appointed from upper level government. For example, you were official at province level government and then you are sent down to a city to become the top leader. It can be also promoted locally, which are also very common. So like before you are the mayor in the city and then you become the city party secretary. That's a promotion, local promotion. So among all the new appointment, about 1/3 is the city leaders come from other cities, other prefecture level cities at the same level. And the 2/3 are come from like upper level governments appointment or local promotion. And our variation, actually in our empirical analysis, we just focus on those who come from other cities because we want to address the mechanism of intercity industrial policy diffusion. Okay. And this figure actually shows at the city level, there's no systematic patterns in the frequency of such intercity government leader rotations during our sample period. And we use city by industry by year level reviewed comparative advantage based on export for the productivity measure. We choose export instead of sales or employment because we want to focus on the international market and we want to exclude the possibility that the government leaders may affect local demand. And we want to just focus on supply side story. Yeah. And we can then use a structural approach to further decompose this RCA to different margins based on a trade model. Like we can decompose it using gravity model to supply side factors and demand side factors, and also the ability of market entrance, that how many destination countries can you export to. Okay. Yeah, this is our empirical specification. I will spend some time on this. So this transfer variable, we have defined it. It's a transfer from C prime to C in year T. And actually, this variable can take one for at most one C prime across the country because there's only one top leader, only one party secretary in each city. If he is transferred from other cities, then for that city, C prime, it takes one. If he is promoted locally or appointed from upper level government, then this is 0 for all C prime. And this is like a triple difference. And actually, what's important is here, that is in C prime, in his previous work city, in city J, in industry J has comparative advantage. So the RCA of industry J in C prime at the year, so the capital T is the time of leaving the previous position. So this RCA larger than 1 captures the learning effect that we want to document. And this specification is quite similar to existing literature, like the paper by Danny Bahar, who is now in another session. Yeah, he used this way to, in his specification, this transfer variable is migration, to study migration-induced knowledge diffusion at the industry level. Yeah, so actually we are very similar to their specification, to use this industry-specific knowledge structure, industry-specific export basket measure to capture this effect of knowledge diffusion induced by some kind of linkage across regions. Okay, and in this triple difference setting, we can control for a bunch of 2x2 fixed effects as well as city by sector linear time trends. And we found that the party sector transfer shock indeed induced an increase in local comparative advantage in the city and in the affected industry. And this result is actually driven by supply side factors instead of demand side factors, and also ability of market entrance. So you can export to more destination countries and export more products. And if we further decompose the supply side factor using structural approach, we found an increase in variety differentiation, a lower marginal cost. So this positive means the RCA determined by marginal cost. So it means lower marginal cost And so it's enhanced productivity and higher quality. So we found supply side response to this. Yeah.
I was wondering if with your data you can identify second order effects. So suppose a bureaucrat moves from A to B to C, and then somebody else moves from F to B to D. So once you get to D, you will bring your competitive advantage from, let's say, F. But since you passed through B, where somebody else has already been
So
through
not just the last term,
yes, not just
but
the last,
maybe the term before.
yeah, because that
Yeah.
would be evidence of diffusion. It's just one bureaucrat indirectly spreading it into different regions
Yeah,
of the
actually,
country.
we conduct this exercise. I did not put it here, and you will find that the effect is decayed. So the effect is most strong for for your experience just before this term, and it's become much weaker for the before terms. Yeah.
Also, is there any sense in which the previous region's RCA is a good thing, is welfare enhancing? Is there a sense that it is a good idea for the new prefecture to replicate the previous region's RCA?
Potentially, it's not. Okay. Yeah, actually, our paper is basically just a partial equilibrium analysis, and we can talk talk very limited thing to like welfare implication, which industry is most appropriate to promote. Yeah.
Can you identify whether when they rotate from a more advanced region like the East Coast to the Western region, which is one of the things the government often tried to do, whether there was more of an effect? That is to say, when go back to what we talked about in the morning, there's a place-based policy. Was this a success? Was this used as a successful place-based policy to disseminate from the more advanced
region to less developed region?
Advanced.
Exactly, that's a point actually we want to make for policy implication in our paper. Yeah, actually, this kind of like rotation of government leaders with specific industry experience can be regarded as a policy tool, like for industrial policy. And actually, what we find is that the effect is larger for the kind of rotation you mentioned, so from more developed region to less developed regions. Yeah. So it's like a policy learning and diffusion of experience across regions. Any other question? Okay.
Hey, I'm trying to catch up on this. I'm looking at, as you talk, looking at your paper, so maybe it's in the paper. So I really do love this, and I've seen a bunch of work related to this over the years. But particularly, there has been a fair amount of work looking at subnational data in China on export performance and FDI performance, as well as certain sort of technological developments. And I was trying to find out, in these papers, they have different proxies for laws, certain types of laws, for instance, about property rights, about how laws regulating FDI and joint ventures. And there's a couple of other ones. There's Danielle Harmonious' work, too, on coding different types of technology institutes and extension centers. And I know, not to try to make your life more complicated, but it would be, I don't know how you're accounting for any of that beyond fixed effects.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned can be potentially addressed by the city-by-year fixed effects, but you mean the industry-specific. I think we will look into that deeper further. Later, I will introduce our industrial policy measures based on the local documents of regulation. How much time do I have? Okay. I move a bit faster. So we have conducted multiple robustness analysis, including a bunch of balance tests to show there's no industry-specific selections. And we also, we study the effect, political rotation, the rotation of prefectural mayors who are the second highest level of government leaders, and we found similar effect, but with a much smaller magnitude. And I will skip this. So we found that the effect is positively the magnitude of the effect is positively correlated with sector contract intensity. So that suggests the role of government leaders in addressing coordination failures and to reduce transaction costs. That's an important rationale for industrial policy, and it's stronger for less developed regions based on like infrastructure, market access, and GDP per capita, and especially stronger for officials who are young and better educated and who have knowledge background on political science and law or engineering. And yeah, then we quickly go to the mechanism. We address two sets of mechanism. First is industrial policy, as I just mentioned. The second is social network effect. So we capture the social network effect using firm registration data, which can capture investment flows induced by political network. There's a paper several years before called moving umbrella. So if a city leader moves, then the local firms with connection with him follows this leader and make investment decisions. But the summary is that industrial policies are important, but we do not find supportive evidence for this. Other mechanisms, including this social network-induced investment flow.
Can I ask a question? Is there any interaction with the rotation of the provincial party chair?
Sorry? You mean?
Is there any interaction of your effects with the rotation of the provincial
level leaders?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here we just focus on the city level leaders. Yeah, and I think, I guess
the provincial get a lot of attention as defining how the province does, and I just wondered whether that turns out to be important.
Yeah, that may be, but like city level appointment and rotation is more frequent. Like, yeah, and maybe we can look into that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So. Questions?
This seems to be this is what I was looking for. What do they bring? So, if based on this slide, what they bring,
what they bring
is knowledge of policy, of sector-specific policies, as well as networks, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
There's a corruption version of this. So I forgot the paper. Someone documented when leader moved from location A to location B. Many firms in location A that previously connected also set up factories in location B because they can continue to benefit from the connection. So there's a potentially less sanguine interpretation of the same patterns.
Yeah, we test this mechanism and we do not find significant effect. Partly because we focus on manufacturing. And that effect mainly works on like high-rent sectors, including like finance, real estate, something like that.
No, manufacturing. Yeah. That isn't there like many in corruption cases, fallen leaders, they were reviewed to receive bribes from firms that coming from their previous locations. Anyways.
Yeah, it's possible. Okay, I think I have very limited time. I will very briefly introduce how we measure industrial policies. So we measure industrial policies use textual analysis based on annual government work report. And this is this is an example. So it's in Chinese, but we highlight the keywords in English. So we have to find some supportive tools for that the government is going to set up support some industries. Which industries is here pharmacy, EVs, electronic information, and these are some industry keywords, and we use machine learning methods to segment the word and do the matching to match it to the standard industrial classification code. And what we find is that this transfer shock indeed increases the probability of the affected industries to be targeted in this region, and we validate this measure of textual analysis based on firm level subsidy and tax data to show that what they claim they actually do to support the firms that in this industry. And we also check the social network story, as Shangjin just mentioned, but we do not find changes like rise and declines of this sector-specific investment following this flow of government leaders from city A to city B. Possibly because here we focus on manufacturing, and it maybe harder than the real estate and financial sectors to do the corruption things by establishing for it.
So on the mechanisms, I'm also curious, I mean, you talked about investment flows, but can you look at like input linkages? Because you showed that the relational industries are the ones where this is most important. And so, finding trustworthy suppliers of parts might also be a constraint. And I just don't know if you have any data that could speak to that.
Yeah, actually, we could look into that later. Yeah, I think it's a good point. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I think you have about a minute left to wrap up.
Yeah. I think I have no time, around out of time, so let me just very briefly conclude. So in this paper, we highlight lesser known mechanism for inter-industry knowledge, inter-regional knowledge diffusion, the rotation of political leaders, and we find this mainly driven by supply-side factors, and we identify industrial policy implementation as an important mechanism for this. So there are some policy implications for this, the role of local government leaders in implementing industrial policy, like what kind of government leaders you will appoint to specific regions and how to use their industry-specific work experience as a tool for industrial policy making and economic development. Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll start our final session, we'll say at 4:05 p.m.